There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
All right, there we go. Tech Dumb Dad. What's up, my friend? Happy Friday. I want to do a quick live. It's Friday, April 26th. No major fights this weekend, although Virgil Ortiz has a major fight because he has to win to get that fight with Tim Tszyu, and he should win. So I was lucky enough. G. Nunez is already making my Friday. I appreciate that. I appreciate people who pop in. My man, Jay, I don't think I got any of your questions in with Scully. So it was hard because we were so far behind. I was like scrolling through. But you know something? There's another kind of impromptu live because boxing can just go so negative and swing that way. And everything with Haney and Garcia. Salute from Portugal. Salute to you, brother. There's beefs now with Bill Haney and Floyd Mayweather, and now Tank is attacking Floyd, and there's all this stuff, and Errol Spence is unfortunately going through stuff with his trainer or ex-trainer Derrick James. So I don't want to talk about that stuff, not at all. Matter of fact, Errol Spence just recently, just recently posted this. Actually, a fighter, and his name is escaped me, but he posted this of Errol visiting with a cancer patient who's stage 3. I don't know if he's terminal.
Hey, how's it going?
That's him right there.
It's an honor to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you too, man.
Oh man, how you doing, man? Come
Doing
on,
good, can't complain.
He's a champ. He's a champ.
Hello, how you doing?
And this the stuff like this, I think needs to be seen more.
This is my daughter Ivy.
That's your daughter, Ivy?
Yeah.
I remember when Ivy was a baby.
Nice to meet you.
What's up, man? I'm one of Coach Tony's friends.
Okay, okay.
I used to coach with him back at
Okay, you know what you called him? Wow.
So this was I'll let this play out.
This is
Yes,
amazing.
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry that you give me that. I'm glad that you had time to come.
Oh no, thanks. I
I know
appreciate.
you're a busy man.
Oh no, I'm alright. I appreciate you though supporting me
Oh, yeah, man.
throughout the years.
Since you started.
I appreciate
There
it.
you go.
Appreciate it. And you don't know how much that means to me. Like you saying you want to meet me.
Man,
You know what I'm saying? That means a lot.
yeah.
Cause stuff I think that's tough, and I be going through.
Right.
You know, it really don't mean nothing. Cause most people have way worse problems than you, and you're
Right.
not really thinking. You just think
And
about
you
the
don't think
problem.
about that.
Yeah, you think about the problems you got, but there's people out here that got way worse.
So that's just a short clip. That those kind of things are good for boxing. That Errol Spence did. And Mad Chad, shout out to you. By the way, George Turkey Al Sheik is very good for boxing. I agree. Very good for boxing. And yes, we have boxing tonight. That's why this is going to be quick. Yeah, Jay, business is business. It's a shame what's going on because they had a beautiful partnership, but the business of boxing gets them. Sugar Ray Leonard and Angelo Dundee were long time. I mean, Angelo Dundee was with Sugar Ray Leonard for his entire career until the end, and they split up because of money. So it's a shame, and it is what it is. And Mr. Baldhead, what's up, George? QWERTY Zamudio, Haney made me a fan with the Hardy Show. I think their team is receiving a little too much criticism, as the internet loves to do. Well, you know how it is. People, and yes, Jojo Diaz fighting again. You know how people are. I mean, you have a bad performance, and people are ready to jump all over you. But the reason why I want to do this quick, just keep some positivity. I also had a chance to speak with Jolene Mazone, and I'm going to drop the entire interview this weekend. But Jolene Mazone was a matchmaker at main events for 25 years, won the best in the sport. And a lot of people may not know who she is because she's behind the scenes. But a few years ago, she started her own her own management team It's called Fighters First Management. So we spoke about a lot of things, but the main thing I wanted to talk to her about was Arturo Gatti. She called Arturo Gatti a brother, and Arturo Gatti was good for boxing. Arturo Gatti would have turned 52 years old on April 15th, and I've been trying to get in touch with Jolene just to get some stories from her. And we spoke for about 45 minutes today. Most of it was Arturo Gatti, and Arturo Gatti is definitely missed, and you should definitely check out the interview. But I do have a short clip. I think this is it. But here's a short clip. This is Jolene Mazzone, who is the president of Fighters First Management. Yeah, we didn't get into that, Mad Chad, because that's I do too, but that's a whole other issue. It was just about that was like her brother, so she has a lot of stories about Arturo Gatti. So let's take a quick listen. But that's why I'm glad I'm talking to you, because you did know him. You spent time with him away from the ring. And I know there's a lot of things you can't talk about because he had some crazy times, but how, when you say he was crazy, like how crazy was he when he wasn't training?
He was crazy but controllable.
Okay.
With the right people.
Yeah.
Like people would say to me, like, oh, like within camps, or not when he was in camps, but like there was a whole bunch of people within the circle that, friends or whatever. And one of the guys would say to me, oh, I'm going out with Arturo tonight. I'd say to myself, fucking good luck. Because he was a machine.
Yeah.
He didn't sleep. It was the adrenaline. Look what he did for a living.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember I think it was a Dumgard fight. That's when he stopped him in the body shot, right?
Yep.
So this is one of the few fights Arturo comes out with no broken hands, nothing.
Right.
Well, he's fucking ready to go.
Oh, God.
And granted, when we were there in his fights, we'd be at that center bar in Bally's until 7 o'clock the next morning.
By the way, Jolene is so Jersey. I'm from Jersey too, so Jolene is cool.
All of us, Pat, me, all of us would be there. Like we'd pull all-nighters.
Wow.
And it was when he fought him and he was looking to go out. I see him coming towards us and I fucking run the other way because I'm like, because he was good at persuading it. So now I'm hiding in Bally's by the bathroom, and there was like a wall there, and I'm standing there. All of a sudden he comes walking down. 6 a.m. at this point. And he's like, he sees me, he's like, Joe, come on, let's go. So I'm like, Arturo,
this is 6 a.m.
6 a.m. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. He's like, come on, just go. I'm like, no, I'm fucking worked and I'm tired. You should be tired. Like, he was just, he just I think a lot of his like he went on adrenaline and he would always want to go, he was a partier. It's okay. Because how many people nowadays are?
Yeah.
Like
Ryan Garcia is one of them.
Well, that's what, look, I picked Haney because you fall into this internet shit and you do it, right?
Of course.
And you know what? To tell you the truth, Haney's more of the boxer. You go with usually the boxer against the puncher, right?
Yep.
But as I was watching Garcia and like a lot of the shit he didn't even I couldn't even follow it, like everybody.
Be glad you didn't.
Right. He should be fighting. And then I'm like, since when did we all fucking become doctors? I'm like, so I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, he's acting no different than fighters I knew back when there wasn't social media.
Right.
So you couldn't see the shit.
Right.
So I said to myself, you know what? He's fucking pulling something. So I put money on him.
Wow.
And I won.
Good for you.
And I didn't even, the funny part is I ended up falling asleep before the fight went on. So the next morning I wake up and I say, let me check. I go on Twitter and somebody put like Haney won. I'm like, no, that can't be true. Let me forget Twitter. Let me go on my FanDuel. I go on my FanDuel. Sure enough, the money was there. I said, holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Kudos.
Well, let me ask you, when Arturo, and again, you don't have to give away anything you don't want to, but he was a partier. He had fun when he wasn't fighting, but when he was in training, would he do the same things that Ryan Garcia? Ryan Garcia said he would go out drinking Mondays and Tuesdays and tone it down as the week went on. How was Arturo during a training camp?
Now, what Arturo would do, this was his thing. He trained in Vero. He would fly into West Palm. I believe it was called Rachel's, a strip joint.
Of course.
He would go to Rachel's. He'd get his party on, and it was a 2-day thing. He'd get it all out. Him and Teddy Cruz would then drive to Vero, and it was camp mode the rest of the time.
There you go. See, my mic was muted. Jolene is super cool. I've known Jolene for a long time. I knew Jolene when I was at HBO, and she's Jersey. She's a straight shooter, and I'm going to drop the interview tomorrow. It's about 45 minutes, and a large part of it is her telling Arturo Gatti stories, just about how giving he was, how funny he was. We kept it positive. We didn't talk about his death or the circumstances, how he died. She also told some really good Pernell Whitaker stories, because Pernell Whitaker also was with Main Events, and I told her my story with Arturo Gatti. The one time I shot with him was 2006, before he fought Thomas Damgard. So 2006, which is crazy. So his people, Pat Lynch, who was his guy, is his guy, set it up. And I went down to Florida because he was training with Buddy McGirt in one of those gyms in a warehouse. So Arturo and I were talking, and he's from Canada, but he lived in Jersey for a long time. And I'm from Jersey. At the time, I still lived in Jersey. And he asked me if I knew certain strip clubs that were, I think they were in Rawway or Elizabeth. And I did. And as soon as he heard that, like, he lit up and we talked and we bonded. The only thing I regret is not taking pictures. I wish I could have taken pictures. Yeah, she can come to the barbecue. Yeah, she Mad Chad. Jolene. Jolene's still part of the business behind the scenes. I could see her having more guest appearances. Yes, she and the interview will come out tomorrow, but she was with Main Events for about 25 years. She was a matchmaker. She started off. It's a great story, and she talks about it. She answered the phones at Main Events back when Kathy Duva and her husband used to run Main Events before Kathy did. So she answered the phones, and she tells a great story about how she moved up. But right now she is the president of Fighters First Management, which is a full service management company. They've got some good young fighters that I'll hopefully be interviewing some of them soon. But she is still in the sport, and look, you see it when the interview drops tomorrow. But Fighters First Management is all about the fighters, and it's about them learning the business. So I'm definitely going to have Jolene back because she's a great storyteller, and she's got a million stories with Arturo Gatti. And that's really what I wanted to talk about. I know that Errol Spence is going through things with Derek James, but we just played a clip of him visiting a stage 3 cancer patient, and you could tell that the guy was so appreciative of it. And Errol didn't know that they were going to shoot it. And it was just real, genuine moment. And I see something like that, and I immediately, I've always rooted for Errol, but seeing those real moments is special, and we don't get to see that enough. 2006, it was just yesterday, except it wasn't. Yeah, and that was actually when I was in camp with Gotti. I say in camp, I was there for 3 or 4 days, so I wasn't in a whole camp with him. But it was the last fight, I believe, that he won, because he ended up retiring in 2007. So it was fun being around him, and he was all business. He was all business in camp. The late great Arturo Gotti. Yeah, Jolene, she definitely, like I said, it's a 45-minute interview that I'll drop tomorrow, and it's compelling. She's a great storyteller. Tech Dumb Dead, One Round with George. Have you watched the Amazon Prime PBC Gloves Off episodes yet? It's almost the exact blueprint of HBO 24/7. I got your text, and no, I haven't watched them yet. It doesn't surprise me, because the same people who did the Showtime show, all I'm thinking about is 24/7, All Access. The people that do All Access are doing that, and a lot of the people that do All Access, they had something to do with 24/7. So it's kind of the same family. It's the same type of show. 24/7. All Access was the same as 24/7, and there's a lot of shows that are the same. JC, salute to you. Same narrator. So no, it's the same narrator as All Access. Barry Pepper, the actor. The reason why Barry Pepper's been in a lot of things, but he was in 61, a Billy Crystal HBO movie that he did based on the 1961 Yankees. So Liev Schreiber was the voice of 24/7. So Barry Pepper is kind of like I won't say a knockoff, because he's good in his own right, but I guess he's a less expensive Liev Schreiber. Andrew Charles, salute. Soap opera. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So, yes, make sure you check that interview out. But Arturo Gotti, the reason why I wanted to speak to her is we could all talk. I could put a link in right now, and we could talk for an hour about Arturo Gotti fights, because he was Rocky and people loved him. They loved him for his heart and what he gave. But Jolene had stories about him outside of the ring, and he was a handful. And one of the sadder things she mentioned in the interview was that I asked her, did Arturo know that people loved him? He was just beloved. She said no. She said he never really grasped that, and I don't think he ever got to enjoy his retirement. I mean, who knows what the issues were with him? He took a lot of punishment in his career, but it seems like he didn't know that he was loved. I can remember working a lot of those fights in Atlantic City, a lot of those fights in AC, and Boardwalk Hall was just, it was the place to be. And something that we talked about is how Arturo Gotti is synonymous with Atlantic City. Back in the 80s, late 80s, when Mike Tyson was the fighter, Atlantic City was almost on par. I won't say it was Vegas, but it was almost on par. I mean, it was a big time destination of boxing. A lot of fights were in AC. And in the 90s and 2000s, Arturo Gotti was must-see TV, and almost all of his fights were in Atlantic City. And I worked so many of those fights. Although the first Mickey Ward fight was in one of the casinos in Connecticut. I forget which one. It was Mohegan, maybe, or Foxwoods. I think it was Mohegan. But what I remember about Boardwalk Hall, and that Domgard fight, which I worked in 2006, was in January. So if anyone's been to Atlantic City, you know this to be true. The boardwalk where the arena was, it was right on the boardwalk, and the boardwalk is right on the waterfront. So, man, when those fights were over and you open that door to get onto the boardwalk, and it's like 12 degrees and that wind is whipping off the ocean, it was cold on that boardwalk, but it didn't matter. When Arturo Gotti fought, it was packed and people loved him. And I remember, and you got hyped. Exactly. when he fought Floyd, and everybody knew. I mean, yes, people thought he had a puncher's chance, but you knew that Floyd was going to do what he did to him. But I was Bob Costas's stage manager for that. It was a pay-per-view, and Bob Costas used to work he would work the desk. So it was big when you had Bob Costas working. And I just remember when Gotti came into the arena, and it was like that for all of his fights. So he was always the favorite. He was loved. And Arturo Gotti Floyd Mayweather did what he did. You know what always stood out though about Gotti is he always seemed to bounce back. He always seemed to bounce back. I was looking at his record before, and I remember when he fought Oscar De La Hoya, who clearly was so much bigger than him, and he had a good first round against De La Hoya. That was almost like I feel like it was like you're present to leave boxing, and we're going to give you a nice payday. We're going to give you a nice payday with Oscar De La Hoya, who, look, Oscar De La Hoya was a great fighter, and that was a tough matchup for Arturo Gotti. And I want to get the year right. So he fought Oscar in 2001, and he had already had wars with. He had that 2 fights with Ivan Robinson and Relis and Tracy Harris Patterson and Wilson Rodriguez, which, I mean, any of those fights. So he had been through the wars, and he fights Oscar in 2001 and gets knocked out in 5. And then he comes back with Buddy McGirt, reinvents his career. Then he's got the 3 fights with Mickey Ward, and he went from being a hero to a superstar to someone that we still talk about. And he hasn't fought since 2007. In fact, Damgard was in January 2006. He lost his next fight to Baldemir, and then the sad fight against Alfonso Gomez, and his career was over. And then a couple years later, he passed away. But my point today was to make this a short live. My wife didn't think I could do it. She didn't think I could do it under an hour. I'm going to do it way under an hour because there's boxing on tonight. In this house, there's baseball on tonight too. Yankee fans here. So people tend to focus on the negative too much in boxing. And I'm tired of these beefs. I don't want to hear Tank threatening Floyd and Floyd arguing with Haney. First of all, Floyd doesn't even fight anymore. So I don't know why people are attacking him. That's not what my focus is. Errol Spence, go on Instagram and look at what he's done. He spent time with that gentleman who's only 47, who has stage 3 cancer. I think it's liver cancer. So praying for him. But there's a lot of positivity in boxing. And yes, Turkey is positive for boxing. And there's some great cards coming up. There's boxing this weekend. You got Canelo fighting next weekend. And in less than a month, we're going to have an undisputed heavyweight champion. And his name's going to be Alexander Usyk. So, that'll be something to talk about. But it's been a good week. We had Sean Porter on earlier this week. Jolie Mazzone, who I'm going to drop that interview tomorrow. But I had John Iceman Scully on, who was kind enough to do a live and answer some questions. So, points scored with a wife are always a good thing, George. After 30 years with my wife, I know this to be true. Hail to you, Tech Dumb Dad. You're exactly right. So, like I said, make sure you, yes. Khan, Shawnery, my man. Floyd still behaves like he's an active fighter. He makes everything about him and can't help rubbing his accomplishments in people's faces without fail. Well, people let him. So, Bill Haney didn't have to go live with him on Instagram, and Tank didn't have to attack him. It is what it is. Great week of interviews, content, and hitting milestones on the live. Yeah, well, and Sean really helped me out because he put it on his Instagram, and that thing, it really, I appreciate him. Tim Bradley's going to come back soon. I haven't asked Paulie and Chris yet, but I definitely want to get them on as well. Love and Not a Fighter LOL, Jolene is the best. Shout out to Fighters First Management. Make sure you check out their website, Fighters First Management. They've got some good fighters. Justin Figueroa is a 25-year-old unbeaten junior middleweight who I think I'll be talking to next week. He fights May 11th. And Sean McCalman, I'm saying his name wrong again, but he's the guy that fought Diego Pacheco not too long ago, and he hung with Pacheco. It was a close fight. I thought it was even after the first 4, 5, 6 rounds, and he kind of ran out of gas. But he's another fighter with Fighters First Management, and they're a management company. They're not a promotional company. So Jolene's a lifer. She's a boxing lifer, and she's got a lot of stories, and she was extremely close with Arturo Gatti. So make sure you give that a listen. She's good people, and she's Jersey. So hey, that's all you have to do. If you're from Jersey, then I rock with you. So Figueroa's looking very promising. Yes, Jolene told some good stories about him because he's also from Atlantic City. So she told some good stories about him. Jonathan O'Halloran, your work is great. Sub, I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who stops in because there's a lot of things to see, a lot of things to do. And there's boxing tonight, which is why I wanted to do this soon. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep it. I'm just trying to keep it positive. You can go down that rabbit hole of negativity and the headlines, but look, sometimes I talk about that stuff too, but not today. Not today. Not today. Yeah, make sure you don't smash it, don't break your computer, but Fiesel Wampers, man, I love it. Jolene is a riot. Excited to catch the interview when it drops tomorrow. Yeah, she and I've been I've got to spend some time around her. I went to main events when she was there. Yeah, she is honest and she's a straight shooter. And a lot of times when you're honest nowadays, you're looked at as a hater or you're mean. No, it's just being honest. That's all it is. So Jolene Mazzone, the president of Fighters First Management, the interview, I'll just call it a conversation. The conversation is dropping tomorrow. Another interview. I keep calling it interviews. It's conversations. Nestor Gibbs from the Boxing Voice. I'm trying to get him. He kind of agreed to one, but he hasn't reached back out. But he works like those guys. Him and Danny, shout out to those guys. They work like 16 hours a day. So, in his downtime, he might not want to talk boxing. But to be honest, I don't want to talk to him about boxing. I want to talk to him about him because I think a lot of people don't know much about him. And I believe he's from Jersey too. So there you go. I want to talk to him and his channel and how he started it and how he got a love for boxing, because you can talk about boxing all day long and there's plenty to talk about, but I like to talk to people and find out what their stories are. Yeah, so hopefully that happens soon. But again, I won't push him because those guys do certain days of the week. They do two shows a day. So, I mean, he's on early in the morning till like 1 or 2. I think they just end it whenever. So, and they have over 200,000 subscribers. And I'll have to find it. But I did one show with them in person in Vegas a few years ago and another remote. So I spent a little time with those guys. And they love the sport, man. And those are the people I love. Good to see you doing this live stuff more regular. Yeah, that's where it's at. You have, but you have to have stuff to talk about. Tell Paul to get on her soon. I need that Sunday grind. Oh, yes, I will. Paulie doesn't do a lot of interviews, and I haven't asked him yet. I want to have him on when there's something really relevant to talk about. Maestro, salute George, loving the work and respecting the grind. It's not a grind when you love it. So, Contrary Lampley doesn't seem impressed with Floyd lately either. Jim is another. I'm trying to catch up with him, although I can't promise an interview with him next week because he is working the PPV.com show. We have a Canelo fight next week. So he's working that, which I'm going to check out. Shout out to PPV.com. They do a live chat during the fight. I still think it's criminal that Jim Lampley is not calling live fights. Maestro A, can you organize the sparring sessions with YouTubers? I can. I can. I keep talking about it. One night I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have some topics. I'm going to pick 2 people and we're just going to do it. We'll do it and we'll have some fun. Because those were definitely the shows I had the most fun on. Jay Rich would love to hear how much Paulie hates Canelo next weekend. Even after he beats Munguia. I hate Canelo too. Yeah, I don't hate Canelo, but I think he's gonna destroy Munguia. I do. Although I also thought that Haney was gonna beat Ryan Garcia. I also thought that Oscar De La Hoya was gonna beat Manny Pacquiao. So I don't know anything, apparently. My show, then we'll get you on. We'll get you on. Jim is an icon, absolute Hall of Famer. He really is. And man, I want to talk to Jim because I interviewed him once when I was at Pro Box, but it was with Chris and Paulie. So, you have to share the interview space. I want to, looks like we got a challenge in Tech Dumb Dad Maestro. That looks like the first sparring session. But I want to talk to Jim a one-on-one because I did work with him for a long time. And I was in awe of the guy for like the first couple years. I mean, I would just like not know what to say when I was around him because I felt like I grew up with him. Well, I did grow up with him calling fights. So I was always tongue-tied. And I mean, when I would see him, I remember I'll have to bring this up to him. He won't remember this, but I was in an elevator with him at some fight. I was in an elevator with him at some fight and he walked in. I didn't realize. And I said, "Hey, Jim, how you doing?" "George, how are you?" Very professional. I didn't know what to say. So I just brought up some lame fact about that I was from Rahway and James Scott was a prisoner in Rahway prison and he fought on TV. And it was just, I was just, it took a couple years before I started to feel comfortable. Nello will counter punch Munguia. Yeah, I think that he's just tailor made. Jay Rich, I'll need a 24-hour notice on topics. Now, I don't know if nobody knows, nobody cares, but I will say this on the sparring sessions, Paulie and they always knew what show we were doing beforehand when it wasn't a sparring session. We were always prepped. We always knew if it was a big fight preview on a fight, they knew what the talking points were. But when it came down to doing a sparring session, they never knew what the topics were. Chris and Paulie did this all off the top of their head. I knew what the topics were because I made the show. They never knew. There was no prep. The only time they knew was that when we were doing the show, when they would flash up on the screen. So they had minutes to think about them. So that's how we do it. That's how we do it. And I told Tim Brad, because we tried to get Tim Bradley and Sean to do it, and they would have at some point. Maybe they will. I think they're going to do the show again with someone at some point. But Tim was my dog is staring at me. Tim was super impressed that it was just off the cuff and they were just doing these on the spot. So that's another reason why the show worked as well as it did. Conchonery, they were criticizing Haney's jab being a large factor in the Garcia fight, including Floyd. But someone pulled up video of Floyd throwing a lunging bow and arrow jab in his fight against Canelo. Yeah, well, you can do that. I mean, yeah. Look what he did to Canelo. He dominated Canelo, and I was one of those guys that knew he was going to dominate Canelo. Knew it. And Canelo's I think Canelo might have been on the cover of, remember ESPN, the magazine? I think he was on the cover of that. He was 22, 23. That fight went exactly how I thought it would, except one judge. Didn't the one judge have a draw? Which is crazy. Tech Done Dad, meeting Jim is one of those meetings your heroes and not being disappointed things would. Yeah, Jim, yeah, he's an icon. Jim is an icon, and I'm not going to reach out to him this weekend, but I believe he'll be too busy prepping for next week for the May 4th Canelo fight. But yeah, Jim is awesome, and Jim is like that in person. He's just a good dude, and hopefully we'll be talking to him soon. Tech Dumb Dad, that's how you make it in an even playing field. No warning, just talk about it from the hip. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Banana Bread. Who would you personally fight and why? Who would you who, me? Prime? Oh, you mean matchups? Prime Golovkin versus Prime James Tony. Hard to go against Tony. I'm sorry, man. It's hard to go. Although Tony was best at 168 and above, and Golovkin was best at 160. Tony lost his belt at 160 against Roy when he had issues making weight. But man, what a fight! Conchanery. Was Jim a boxing fan prior to his working for HBO? He called fights on ABC. He didn't even intend on I think he tells a story, and I'll ask him. He's told it a million times, but it was almost like a punishment. Someone didn't like him, I think, at ABC, and he wanted to be doing more high profile things, and he said, no, you can do boxing, and Jim excelled. In fact, if you look up Mike Tyson, a lot of Mike Tyson's early fights before he won the title, Jim Lampley called because those fights were on ABC. And in fact, Marvis Frazier, that I remember vividly, the 30-second knockout Tyson had on Marvis Frazier, Jim Lampley called that fight, and he's Jim Lampley. He's Jim Lampley, and he's missed. And you know, there's always people that don't like someone, and I see a lot of people, not a lot, but people here and there criticize Jim Lampley. I'm taking Jim Lampley any day calling fights. Haney leaning to the right when he jabs is a bad habit. He needs to break fast. Well, so I was right. Yeah, one judge had which was insane. I mean, come on. Who would you rather fight for 12 rounds of why? James Toney or who? You talking about me? Who would I fight? Who would you rather fight for 12 rounds and why? James Toney. Banana Bread, which I love Banana Bread. I'm trying to understand that. I'm still pondering it. I'm about to end this, though. Contrary, the difference is Floyd might have had trouble with Garcia, too, but I believe he would have adjusted and corrected it during the fight. Yeah, nobody made adjustments like Floyd. Nobody. No one made adjustments like Floyd. Yeah, he beats Ryan Garcia. I mean, I don't think there's much to debate on that. He beats Devin Haney in his prime. I don't think there's much to debate on that. Tony or RJ for 12 in their prime? I would fight Tony, but both would kill most men on the planet. Yeah. Me personally, I wouldn't fight either one. He did. He called football on ABC. I mean, he's done Olympics. He's had a fulfilling career. And when HBO stopped doing boxing, who called Chacon versus Lamone for? I don't remember. Well, I don't remember if it was on CBS or NBC. I can tell you back then, because that was my time. CBS was Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy. They were phenomenal on CBS. NBC was Marv Albert and Dr. Ferdy Pacheco. And on ABC, you had Alex Walu, and then you had other people with Alex Walu. So wherever he fought, that's who called the fight. I feel like it was CBS. It was CBS or NBC. That's my guess. So, yeah, that's who called the fight. But man, Chacon Lamone for man, what a fight. Ferdy Pacheco, the fight doctor, who Ferdy Pacheco was also at Showtime for a long time after that. And I read Ferdy Pacheco's book, and he didn't get along with some of the Showtime guys. So I think Pacheco, yeah. So got a lot coming up, man. I just enjoy talking boxing, and I would drop the link, but it's been 40 minutes already. I'm about to end this before it gets dark. It's still light. We got boxing tonight. If you're a Yankee fan, there's Yankee baseball tonight. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the fights tomorrow. Not so much for the fights, but because, CJ Ross. I remember CJ. And I remember that retirement. But Virgil Ortiz, I've called Virgil Victor, so he's not Victor. Virgil Ortiz should win tomorrow night. He should win, and that's the fight. Him and Tim Tszyu, and I give it to that right there. That fight right there would have been a perfect fight when I was a kid on the weekend, on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock, 3:30, and that fight is on. It's perfect. That is a great, great fight, intriguing matchup. Yeah, and we'll talk about these cards next week. I saw the Matchroom. I saw the press conference on Wednesday, and I was getting the June 1st card confused with the August card, and I thought they were all on the same card, which would have been insane. But that June 1st card, there's a lot. See, there's so much there's so much to focus on the positive things of boxing. J. Rich, Virgil Ortiz, Tim Tszyu winner gets Terrence too. Ooh. Yeah, right now I'm feeling that Tim wins that fight, but you still have to fight the fights. Definitely have some fire. Definitely have some fire. All right. Interview with Jolene Mazzone is dropping tomorrow. It's about 45 minutes. I promise you it's worth your time. She's going to tell you how she started at main events. And there's not a lot of women in boxing, period. And she knows her stuff. Jolene knows her stuff. She talks about her rise at main events. She talks about her new company. She gives some great stories about Pernell Whitaker, who was with main events. And she really, really gives some great stories about the late, great Arturo Gatti. And it'll be well worth your time. So shout out to her and shout out to everyone in the chat. And we got fights tonight. We got fights tomorrow. We have lots to talk about. Make sure you like and subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.